This podcast is made possible by you, the supporters of WPLN and WNXP Nashville Public Radio.
This is the Nashvillager Podcast. It's May 22nd, 2025. On this day in 1947, President Harry S. Truman changed the American approach to foreign relations, setting a new course that would last for decades. His policy, now known as the Truman Doctrine, essentially said that the United States should be the global defender of freedom. Up until that point, this country had generally only gotten officially involved in conflicts if we really had to. A prime example is World War II. We only offered limited assistance to our allies until Japan attacked us. The Truman Doctrine said that the U.S. should help out any democratic nation under threat from authoritarian forces, military, economic, political, whatever kind of help they needed. And that was pretty much the guiding philosophy for America through the end of the Cold War. I'm Nina Cardona, and this is your daily digest of what's happening around Middle Tennessee with historical context from Nashville Public Radio, WPLN News. In some ways, you can still see remnants of the Truman Doctrine in the way our nation positions itself in the world these days. But the landscape has become far more complicated, and there have been some pretty big pendulum swings in how different presidential administrations approach things. All of those changes can leave regular people in a precarious position. Right now, there are thousands of people living in Tennessee whose lives may change dramatically because of a foreign policy change that was just made. They are Venezuelan nationals. They are in this country legally, or at least they were. The president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, is a criminal by any definition. He's a mobster, a drug kingpin. Before taking over the country, he ran a group called the Cartel of the Suns. He negotiated huge shipments of cocaine and military-grade weapons. For protection, his cartel had to deal with another group recognized internationally as a terrorist organization, the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, or FARC. If you go to the State Department's webpage of information about Maduro, you can download a wanted poster for him. The reward for his capture is $25 million. That's the kind of guy who's running the Venezuelan government. And that means about what you might think for the people who live there. The economy is shot, poverty is incredibly widespread, and the violence is next level. Now, both the Biden and Trump administrations agree that Maduro is trouble and a very bad guy. At his election rallies last year, President Trump referred to him in no uncertain terms as a dictator. In his first term, Trump followed a policy he called maximum sanctions against Venezuela. The Biden administration kind of gave Maduro a chance to allow free elections, but when he didn't, they slapped on even more sanctions. The Biden White House also extended temporary protection to regular people fleeing Venezuela, allowing them to find safety and security in the United States. But not long after the second Trump inauguration, the new administration made it clear they were willing to negotiate with Venezuela on at least some things. Secretary of State Marco Rubio at one point referred to Maduro as the country's rightful president, which the U.S. still officially says is not the case. Officials from the two countries went into talks. They came out saying Venezuela would return 6 Americans imprisoned there. These are people accused of plotting to overturn the Maduro government. And not long after that, it became clear what Venezuela was getting out of the deal. The announcement came via Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. She said it was time to end that protection given to Venezuelan migrants living in the U.S. She basically painted all Venezuelans as either criminals or, at the very least, burdens on American communities. And sure enough, Trump signed an executive order ending temporary protection status. And Venezuela agreed to send planes to retrieve its nationals, to bring them back to a place our government's travel warnings describe as having a, quote, high risk of wrongful detention, torture in detention, arbitrary enforcement of local laws, crime, civil unrest, and poor health infrastructure. That executive order is being challenged in court. But this week, the Supreme Court ruled that the administration can go ahead and end individuals' status while appeals move forward. It's not entirely clear how many people in Tennessee are affected. The latest data we have is a year old. At that point, there were 10,000 people with that kind of status in our state. living and working, making new, safe lives here. It's not clear how many of those are from Venezuela, but likely thousands. Some of them will continue to have protections until September. Others could be deported at any time. There is still pending litigation to sort out whether the executive order truly can stand. But because of that Supreme Court decision, some people could be sent back to the dangers of their home country before a final decision is made. If all goes according to schedule, a man will be executed by the state of Tennessee today. In just a few minutes, a look at what he and his victims are thinking and feeling. That's coming up after the newscast.
On This is Nashville, we're taking a journey into the identity of this place we call home. The old and the new, the glitzy and the gritty, the monumental and the human. What makes Nashville tick? What makes it unique? And where are we headed as a city? We're going deeper on the day's news, bringing you dynamic conversations and taking you with us out into the community. Join us weekdays at noon. This is Nashville.
Here's the latest from WPLN News. A federal judge has ordered the Trump administration to pay out millions of dollars in grants frozen earlier this year. WPLN Cynthia Abrams reports that for Nashville, that could mean the reinstatement of $14 million.
Metro was one of 6 cities and 13 nonprofits to join the lawsuit, led by the Southern Environmental Law Center. Nashville signed on because of 2 infrastructure grants that were canceled. One pays for citywide electric vehicle charging stations, while another supports bike lanes in East Nashville. This isn't the only lawsuit challenging the Trump administration that Nashville is a part of. Metro has also sued the Federal Health and Human Services Department over canceled public health dollars. Cynthia Abrams, WPLN News.
The Trump administration is likely to appeal, but the Southern Environmental Law Center says they plan to continue the legal challenge all the way to the Supreme Court. Meanwhile, Nashville's Catholic Charities will be laying off more than 50 employees, with more layoffs expected in the coming weeks. The announcement comes as federal funding cuts have weakened the nonprofit sector. The diocese will shutter its New American program, which helps resettle refugees. Separately, Catholic Charities will continue to operate the Tennessee Office for Refugees, which administers the statewide refugee resettlement program under a different federal contract. Late last month, the Trump administration dismissed hundreds of volunteers working on the nation's biggest climate report. It's called the National Climate Assessment. It's required by Congress every 4 years. The last report was released in 2023. Janie Camp, a research professor at the University of Memphis, was involved in that report. She helped author the chapter on climate change in the Southeast.
There's all these compounding factors that's putting people and the ecosystems at risk. So it's kind of, unfortunately, the perfect storm for a worst-case scenario for much of the Southeast.
WPLN's Caroline Eggers sat down with Camp to discuss some key findings from the climate report, and you can find more about that on our website, WPLN.org. The utility that makes most of Tennessee's electricity is taking a big step, the first ever in the U.S. It's applying for the permit to build the nation's first ever small modular nuclear reactor. Leaders of the Tennessee Valley Authority have made it clear in recent years that their future plans include a heavy reliance on the next generation of nuclear power. TVA is partnering with scientists at the Oak Ridge National Laboratory to build their proof of concept at the utility's Clinch River site in East Tennessee. Other large utilities in the U.S. have shown reluctance to invest in new nuclear plants because of cost overruns and delays. But earlier this month, a power company in Canada began building a reactor similar to the one TVA intends to construct. Dickson County Schools is about to lose much of its local tax revenue stream. According to state law, cities without their own school districts must give 50% of their sales tax revenue to the district's residents use. The Dickson Post reports that in 1969, 6 municipalities in the county signed an agreement to contribute a certain amount over 50% to fund the construction of Dickson County High School. The county mayor is now saying the document was poorly written and its requirements are no longer applicable. But the cities were still giving the school district money long after the school was built in 1971. Most of the cities ended their part of the agreement over the years, and the city of Dickson is set to do the same on June 30th. The school district will then have to make up for about a $1 million loss in its annual budget. The city of Dixon offered to pay for 2 resource officers, which may lessen the shortfall. Nashville had the most gentrification of any U.S. city between 2010 and 2020. That's according to a new study by the National Community Reinvestment Coalition, a group that advocates for affordable housing. Gentrification happens when an area begins attracting wealthy, often white, residents. Rents and property values rise rapidly, displacing longtime residents who can no longer afford to live there. The Tennessean reports the most intense recent gentrification has occurred in North Nashville, north of Buchanan Street, including much of Metro Center. Recent research from the Metro Planning Department found that Nashville's gentrification often happens on racial lines. The department found that 99% of Nashville neighborhoods are unaffordable for Black and Hispanic families earning the median income. Solutions to gentrification are complex, but the National Community Reinvestment Coalition says property tax relief and new affordable housing units are key tools. As Nashville becomes a mosaic of multiculturalism, it's also becoming a melting pot of accents. And having an accent that isn't perceived as being the norm can impact a person's experience. Listeners like Chantel from Australia called into This Is Nashville yesterday to share how it feels to sound different.
We moved originally in 1987. I was 15. Australia being very popular. It was Crocodile Dundee, koala blue stores everywhere. I noticed everyone wanted to talk to me. Everyone wanted me to say something. In school, especially when you're moving countries, the last thing you want to do is talk to anyone. You just want to blend into the background.
You can listen to the full show on accents at thisisnashville.org or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. You'll find more news anytime at WPLN.org. Oscar Franklin Smith is scheduled to be executed this morning for a 1989 crime. He was convicted of killing his wife and 2 of her sons. People close to the case share with WPLN's Tasha A.F. Lemley the wide span of thoughts and emotions leading up to this day.
Are you Casey?
Yes.
Hi, Casey. I'm Tasha. Good to meet you.
Casey Smith has been living in a halfway house south of Nashville for about 8 weeks. He moved in after his release from prison in March.
Okay, so I've still got my room set up like a jail cell. I've got pictures on the walls, literally the same pictures that I had hanging up whenever I was locked up, are the same ones that I came and put up whenever I got out, because it just makes it feel more like home, I guess.
And Casey, why are we here talking today?
Because my dad's scheduled to be executed. Everyone seems really thrilled and really excited about hearing about someone scheduled to be executed, but no one really talks about the impact that it has on the people that survived the incidents that led up to it.
Casey and his twin brother were just under 3 years old in 1989 when their biological father, Oscar Franklin Smith, killed their mother, Judy Roberts Smith, and 2 half-brothers, Chad and Jason Burnett. He says his life since then has been unstable at best. He struggles to keep relationships with his family, including his own children and twin brother. He's been in wilderness camps, group homes, boot camps, and incarcerated more than 30 times.
I've only been on the streets like 6 years since I was 12. I mean, I don't have a lot of experience out here, you know? Like, somehow, some way, shape, or form, something always happens. I definitely made all these decisions myself, knowingly, but my priorities were different, and my sense of right and wrong was different. Not because I didn't understand right and wrong, I just felt like everyone else didn't. I mean, my dad didn't rob me of a life. I allowed my emotions to keep me from moving past it.
Rebecca Lester, she lived on the same street as the Smiths when the murders happened. She remembers Casey's brothers being polite and helpful. And things just weren't the same after they were gone.
It changed our neighborhood. You know, it changed us. It changed all of us. It affected us.
She says they had a harder time trusting people. She kept a closer eye on her own kids and limited where they could play and whose house they could go to. Her feelings about Oscar Smith's execution are complicated. But at the same time, she says she hopes Judy, Chad, and Jason get justice. and feels frustration with people who are opposed to the death penalty.
How many of those people that are fighting for him, how many of them have ever known anybody to be murdered?
One Sunday evening, we get a call that my cousin Daryl had taken the lives of his 4 children, and he received the death penalty for each count of murder.
Reverend Timothy Holton was a 17-year-old high school senior when 4 of his family members were murdered.
It's the only time in my life I've ever been a pallbearer, and I carried 4 small caskets to their resting place in the cemetery in Rover, Tennessee.
Holton grew up in a faith community believing execution was biblical, but he says the death penalty never quite made sense to him. His experience showed him executions don't bring families peace, but structured support could help, something Holton says his family just didn't have.
We needed professional help. There is no one. There are no resources. You're just told, this is justice. This is going to fix it. And it makes it so much worse because that's when the actual horror begins, is from that point moving forward. I'm coming to that point where I see that coexisting with this trauma is the best it's ever going to be.
Holton's now a death penalty abolitionist. He's a chaplain to Tennessee's death row and calls Oscar Smith his friend. Casey Smith, he didn't maintain a relationship with his father after the murders. He says he'll probably be at work when his dad is scheduled to die. A friend will let him know what happened.
For all intents and purposes, he's been gone since I was 2. Whenever I quit blaming him for everything, he quit being a factor in my life completely. I don't see how there's got to be a really articulate way of saying this that I'm just not thinking of. But if this man's killing 3 people is deserving of death, why would anybody think it of any benefit to go and watch the state do the same thing to him?
For WPLN News, I'm Tasha A.F. Lemley.
You can hear an in-depth interview with Casey Smith on today's episode of This is Nashville. Thanks for listening to the Nash Villager podcast. We take this look at Nashville news every weekday. If you like it, go ahead and subscribe on your favorite podcasting app and tell a friend or give us a mention on your socials because that really helps get the word out. And of course, everything at WPLN News is listener supported. You can become a member at WPLN.org. And that's it for today. Thanks so much for listening. Let's make this day a good one, and we'll catch back up tomorrow.